Joining us now, Jack Brewer, retired NFL captain and the CEO of the Brewer Group. Also today with us, Republican strategist Bobby Eberle. He's the host of the 13-Minute News Hour. Great to see you both. Hope you're having a blessed Turkey Day. Jack, I'll start with you. What do you make of this crime we're seeing all across this country? You saw there with those police officers being struck, but I think, again, you know this quite well. Democrats allowed children to run around the countryside yelling, defund the police, and all we saw was an increase in shootings in major cities, increase in homicide in major cities, and the largest victims of those homicides and shootings were black and brown people who are already the most vulnerable.
That's right. Let's change the rhetoric. Criminal justice reform is not lawlessness, and lawlessness has no place in society. And it's really sad to see what's going on in our streets right now. So many of our kids have completely lost the fear of God. We have broken homes throughout. We have a fatherless crisis right now in our nation, where the mass majority of your kids are fatherless. If you look at the children that are in our public housing, over 75% of kids in our public housing are fatherless. Over 70% of black kids are born with no dads. And so what ends up happening is they go out and they don't respect their elders. And we don't have enough programs, enough mentorship programs. The resources that we're putting into our education system right now are being wasted. We have states and cities that are spending, $20,000 and $25,000 per kid per school year, but yet these kids can't read and write. And it's just sad. We're out here right now on Thanksgiving in our community distributing meals and trying to help encourage these kids. We're in places that are high crime, but at the same time, if you go and you give these children respect, they'll give it back. And that's what we need to do as a nation right now, because we do have a crisis on our hands in these streets.
Absolutely, Bobby. I want to get you in on this, because the hard truth is that, if you go back to the days of the old crime bosses, right, they were committing crimes because it was making them money. The overwhelming majority of crime you see today is not driven by what Al Capone did. It's driven by the fact that people have no money and no hope at all. In fact, those are some of the sentiments being echoed this week by MSNBC's Joe Scarborough, of all places, about Democratic-run cities. Take a listen. I want to get your response.
Perhaps forego the turkey. Bear with me. Ooh. I know that is the staple of the Thanksgiving meal. However, some people think turkey is overrated, and so it tends to be the most expensive thing on the table. Maybe you do an Italian feast instead. And I will say...
So that was obviously not Joe Scarborough talking about crime in America, but certainly other problems in America. But again, Bob, I want to get your thoughts here, because at the core of this is a lack of opportunity, a rise in pain and despair, and policies from the left that want to paper that over in the name of leveraging that pain for political power, not actual meaningful change.
Yeah, absolutely. And happy Thanksgiving to you, Joe. And I want to take off what Jack said, because what he said was amazing. And you have all these kids, and they're really without a rudder. And what I mean by that is, whether it's a father, whether it's God, whether it's some kind of positive influence, if they're rudderless, they're going to go where the current takes them. And right now, the current that we see is driven by the left with the defund the police movement. We saw it back in the summer, where no Democrats, until they got to their convention, even spoke out about the violence. That empowers people, emboldens people to say, hey, we're going to go do this crime, and there's no punishment. And then on top of that, you have the defund the police movement. You have all these movements that rank and file Americans, regardless of race, don't support. They want law and order. They support the police. They want safer communities. So to your point, that kids can grow up with hope, that they have a chance, that they have an opportunity. But the single best way to give them hope and opportunity is to have positive role models, whether in church or with their families, especially father figures or actual fathers. We need that in the communities to turn things around.
Absolutely. Jack, I want to come back to you, because talking about opportunity, talking about the drivers of the crime, the pain, it is the poverty. I'm sure you've heard by now we've got Dollar Tree already rolling out a $1.25 price point at all stores nationwide. Dollar General already raised their prices above the dollar. When we really look at this increase in costs on the people who actually depend on those lower costs to be able to make ends meet, how is it that we can convince those in power that this is a real problem, because while Democrats are saying, oh, they're not charging because they need to, it's because they can. The hard truth is we all know that those higher costs always get passed on to the consumer, and the consumer that bears the brunt of that burden are the people trapped at the bottom, those people who again have had the least amount of access to the robust amount of opportunity that America can and should provide.
That's exactly right. And right now, you know, folks are feeling it. Can you imagine trying to drive to the pump in places in this country where gas is $5 and $6? All of a sudden, you know, you have to second guess how big you're going to have a Thanksgiving meal. These are issues that America really hadn't seen in the last decade, and especially over the course of the last 5 years when we saw our economy thriving and those at the bottom actually being able to rise up. Folks are now feeling it, and it's unfortunate that this happened after a pandemic, after a time when so many at the bottom either lost their job or the government influenced them not to work by continuing this massive amount of spending and stimulus. And so they're playing with the minds of those that are the most underserved. The media is playing a big part of this as well by communicating and showing these stories as if it's not policy that's pushing all this inflation happening across our nation. And so we have a lot of folks that are really being fooled and hoodwinked right now. And I hope that this is a time where leaders in these communities stand up, because like you said before, these are Democratic run states. Their minorities are running these places, so we can't point at race when it comes to this. But it's that Democratic logic that has swung so far to the left that now is really affecting the pocketbooks of every American. And so I just pray for this nation right now on this Thanksgiving, that God would have his favor over us and bring us some clarity, and that the word of God will be preached to all nations across this nation, specifically to our children.
Absolutely, making sure that we can steer the minds of those, capture the hearts, capture the minds. Jack, Bobby, we're going to talk to you again in the next hour, but God bless you both. We'll talk to you again soon.